Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Campbell, and today we're going to look at an inventory of human trait characteristics. This is kind of a fun lab to think about, and usually we get some great data from throughout our class. Today, you're going to do your own. We're not going to collect class data, but you're going to put your own data on here. So I'm going to walk you through this a little bit, and so please follow along. This is going to be a Google slide again, but I'm going to try to explain some things to you so you understand what you're going to collect for data about yourself. So on the top of the lab, you can see that it talks about traits and how we have traits that are inherited from our parents, and that it also talks a little bit about dominant traits. An example is they'll talk about Huntington's disease, which you've already learned a little bit about Huntington's disease from Mr. Anderson. So what we're looking at is some traits as far as how we look, how we are perceived visually. So one trait that we're going to look at is attached or unattached earlobes down at the bottom of here. Okay, so like I have free earlobe. Mine is free. Mine's hanging, as you can see. Okay. So unattached like this or free is a dominant trait. So that means the attached earlobe would be a recessive trait. Next thing is tongue rolling, whether or not you're able to roll your tongue like that. Some people can, some people cannot. It is a dominant trait. And if you cannot roll your tongue, it is a recessive trait. We'll look at dimples too here. Dimples can be on both sides of the face, or it can be just on one side of the face. It just kind of depends. So this information here we'll talk about dominant versus recessive. Okay. Then we're going to talk about freckles. This is supposedly due to one gene, so the presence of freckles is dominant. And I don't really have freckles unless I'm out in the sun. And then that's not really true freckles. That's more like sunspots, okay? Naturally curly hair is dominant. So I have obviously very recessive hair because it's straight, but my daughter has really curly hair. So she has that dominant gene. Hand clasping is interesting because it's how you lock your fingers together without thinking about it. And so that gives you an idea, and this explains that a little bit. And then the hairline, whether or not you have widow's peak or if it's straight. And what they mean by widow's peak, if you look at mine, I have a little bit of a widow's peak there. It comes down right down there a little bit. I don't go straight across. So some of you may have a widow's peak and some of you may not have a widow's peak. You just have to kind of check. And then the thumb extensibility. I do not have this, I don't think, because if you look at the lines, how they're showing there, your thumb really has to bend a lot just naturally, and mine does not do that. I don't think it has that much. Now, some people may think I am straight thumb is dominant. The bending of the thumb is recessive. Maybe mine is kind of bent, but it's always been hard for me to figure that one out. Colorblindness is a trait that is linked on the X chromosome. And women have the X chromosomes and men have an X and a Y chromosome. So if you are colorblind, and we've had some people in class, you most likely inherited it from your mother. And they would have that, they would be colorblind, probably because they get it from their mom. Okay, blue, gray, eye color. We all have different eye colors. Mine are kind of hazel. There are people who have brown eyes, and then there are people who have kind of greenish gray eyes. Eye color is kind of tricky because everybody's eye color is slightly different. Blue gray, it would definitely have to be a bluish gray. They have little or no pigment on that surface of the iris, like they're talking about here. But it indicates that it's recessive. So anything else, like brown eyes, are always dominant over blue eyes for sure. And mine are hazel, so it has a little bit of a brown in it. The next one, a lot of times we don't talk about so much in class, is the Darwin's tubercle. It's the presence of a bump right here on the ear, and I have a little bit of one. So if it's smooth, that's recessive, but mine is not smooth. I know it's not, so it's dominant. Another one we'll think about is the longer second toe. So the second toe right here next to your big toe. The second toe is dominant. So if it's a shorter one, it's recessive, and I think mine is recessive. And then crossing your legs, right over left is a dominant trait and left over right, just how you would sit normally. And I believe mine, I normally sit with right over left, but I can't always remember. I just have to do it every single time when we do this test. All right, so now what we're going to do is you're going to go back and you're going to look at this Google slide that I put together. I have not put in the squares. You're going to put the squares in. So you're going to decide, do you have attached earlobe or not? So go back and see what's dominant, what's recessive, and you're going to put a D or an R, what you have, and then you're going to answer. You're going to put a circle if you're going to have male or female all the way down. Okay, so and then you're going to mark in here whether it's D for dominant, R for recessive. So we're just going to kind of check it, leave the DR here alone. And you're either male or female. I get that. All right. So just don't worry about that part. We'll know about that. This is more for if you were going to do a large survey for the whole class. So you're just going to collect information about you. All right. And then you're going to mark over here whether or not you're dominant or recessive, and go all the way down. And then down here, what color are your eyes? So like mine are hazel. So I'll just write hazel right here. And then it's going to ask, how many recessive traits do you have? So if you're not sure, go back and look at the screen again. And then how many dominant traits do you have? And after you complete all this, you're going to send this back completed, so that we can have a little bit more of a discussion about the inventory of traits. And this is your self-inventory. Remember, we're not doing the whole class. Remember, too, you don't have to mark whether it's male or female. I'll know based on what you've turned in. So hope you found that helpful. I think this is a really interesting lab to do, to look at things that sometimes we don't think about. You will obviously, if some people are adopted, they won't know who their birth parents, maybe what they look like, but we still have all these traits from our birth parents, whoever they are. So it's still interesting to know, and what may have been passed on to you genetically. So I hope you find that helpful, and I hope you enjoy doing this lab today. Make sure you turn it in when you complete it.